to the cloud. All right, shalom everyone. I'm Brother Doug with my brother Joshua, my sister Zakiah, who is with her husband, our brother Jeff, and our brother Bobby and sister Kristen. So we're going to be doing a study about how to keep on the Feast of Trumpets and kind of like what is the meaning of trumpets and basically just kind of a crash course on this feast. And so I'm going to be going into that. The live should be set up at this point, so I think we're set up on live. Let me just check real quick. Yeah, we're live. Still says preparing. Okay, I don't know why. I'm not going to worry about it right now. We'll just worry about that later. Oh, here we go. That's why. All right. Feast of Trumpets study. Okay. 2020. Okay. And all right. Okay, here we go. All right. So here we go. We're live. So now we're going to start the study here. Go to my document here. Pretty much we're going to start off with the actual commandments of trumpets, like I said before. We're going to go to Leviticus 23 to 25. So we'll start with that. I'll be using my e-sword here just for time's sake to not take too long here. All right, so chapter 23, verses 23 to 25. And I'm using the Brenton Septuagint, so here we go. Okay, Feast of Trumpets. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Yashara'al, saying, In the 7th month, on the first day of the month, you shall have a rest, a memorial of trumpets. It shall be a set-apart gathering. So the first new moon of the 7th month, this is supposed to happen, which this week would happen on the 18th at evening into the 19th at evening. So this coming Sabbath evening. So, and as you can see here, it's a new moon and a feast day at the same time. So that's what makes it, extra special in my opinion. You shall do no servile work, and you shall offer a whole burnt offering to Yahuwah. There's one cross reference I forgot to prepare that I would actually like to go to real quick, and I can't believe I forgot about it, because this is pertaining to this type of appointed time, right? Psalms 81 verse 3. So I'm going to read from the Peshitta version of Psalms because, in my opinion, is the most accurate English translation of this verse. It says, Call with trumpets at the first of the month, the new moon, and at full moon on feast days. Now, this is probably pertaining to like Passover and other feasts that are on the full moon, but at the same time, it's a general command talking about blowing the trumpet at feast days. So generally speaking, so I just wanted to show that, and we're gonna go. I think the next one we're gonna do is Numbers 10. We're gonna go to Numbers chapter 10 because this gives us a gloss over of all the times we're supposed to be blowing the trumpet. And in this specific case was when they were commanded to beat silver into silver trumpets to use at the feast, the new moons, the Sabbaths. So specifically in verse 10 here of chapter 10, it says, And in the days of your gladness and in your feasts, Feast of Trumpets, and in your new moons, which by coincidence, it's also a new moon, you shall sound with the trumpets at your whole burnt offerings. So in the Levitical priesthood, they would also blow at the whole burnt offerings on these appointed times also. And the sacrifices of your peace offerings, and there shall be a memorial for you before your Elohim. I am Yahuwah, your Elohim. Okay. A memorial, something to remember. You could say anniversary in a way. So let's see here. Now we're going to go to, see here. Judges chapter 6, verse 34. The reason I want to go to this is because some translations in Numbers 10 will say that only the priests are supposed to blow the trumpets, but you'll see here that Gideon is not a Levite, and he's not, and he is a Ephraimite, to be specific, and he's blowing a trumpet going out to war. So I just wanted to show that there's a witness that all Israelites are blowing the trumpets, which you could possibly get from Leviticus 23 to 25 anyway, but I figure, you know what, might as well. So, and the spirit of Yahuwah came upon Gideon, and he blew with the horn, and Abiezer came to help after him. So that's Judges chapter 6, verse 34. So the spirit of Yahuwah came upon Gideon, and he blew with the horn. And I think some translations, would say cornet. So it depends on your translation, might say cornet or horn, or I think the Masoretic sometimes will put ram's horn there, possibly. So the last one we have, the last cross-reference we have that deals with the commandments for trumpets is Numbers chapter 29, verses 1 to 6. And so far we see that it's a day of rest, right? It's a day of blowing trumpets. It's a day to congregate. So those three commandments we can easily keep. So the majority of the commandments for trumpets we can actually keep as of right now. So let's see here. It says Numbers chapter 29, verses 1 to 6. And in the 7th month, on the first day of the month, there shall be to you a set apart gathering, right? We're congregating with one another. You shall do no servile work. So possibly this means that you're able to make food, cook. So, and sometimes on certain feast days, even though they are a high feast day, they're a Sabbath, you're still able to cook. Like you'll see that for, I think for the week of unleavened bread, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's either the first day of unleavened bread and the last day, it says no servile work. So you're still able to make what you have to make for the unleavened bread. So it seems like very similar in this case for trumpets. That it's only servile work that you're excluded from. It shall be to you a day of blowing trumpets. So that's one of the major commandments about this day. It's a whole day of blowing trumpets. So, throughout the whole day, you could be blowing trumpets. And you shall offer whole burnt offerings. Obviously, we can't do this right now, but when Yahushua returns, we'll be able to do it. For a sweet savor to Yahuwah, 1 calf of the herd, 1 ram, 7 lambs of a year old without blemish. Their grain offering shall be fine flour mingled with oil, and 3 tenth deals for 1 calf, and 2 tenth deals for 1 ram, and a 10th deal for each several lamb for the 7 lambs, and the kid of the goats for a sin offering to make atonement for you. Besides the whole burnt offerings for the new moon and their grain offerings, because basically in the Old English, when it talks about meat here, it's not really referring to like an animal. Meat in the British language is like generalized for food. So I just want to kind of explain that, why it says meat, but it's not referring to an animal. It's referring to a grain offering. If you have a modern translation, it'll say grain offering. And their drink offerings and their perpetual whole burnt offering and their grain offerings and their drink offerings according to their ordinance for a sweet smell savor to Yahuwah. Okay, so those are the commandments for the Feast of Trumpets. So, and let's see here. Now, I don't know if, let's see here. So now we're going to go to like more of like a spiritual aspect now of the feast, since we already went through the commandments of it. Okay, so pretty much now we got our last canonical scripture right here. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 52. This gives like a prophetic implication in my opinion, of, prophetically speaking what this feast means. And we should really be spiritually getting our houses in order, because I really have a good feeling that Yahushua is going to return on the Feast of Trumpets. you know. So I do feel like this is something that Paul even references here. So, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. So, this is referring to the event after the tribulation, immediately after the tribulation of those days. The sun will be dark, and the moon shall not. The moon shall be turned into blood. You know, the sun doesn't give its light. The stars don't give their light, and Yahusha is returning in the clouds. So it seems like the Feast of Trumpets, on the Feast of Trumpets, whether it's this year, next year, sometime in the distant future, it seems like he's going to return specifically on the Feast of Trumpets when he does return. So that's why I wanted to include that scripture. So for historical reasons, mainly, I want to use you could say, last two extra witnesses for that. There's definitely, it seems to be a historical and almost like a prophetic importance, a specific prophetic importance to this time period, to the 7th month and the first day of the 7th month. So I'm going to be using, and like, I really want to stress, I am not saying, because I haven't tested this book out fully yet, I am not saying it's inspired. I'm using it for historical reasons. So I just want to make that clear. All right, so we're going to look at Jubilees chapter 5, verse 29 first. So it says here, on the new moon in the 4th month, the fountains of the great deep were closed, and the floodgates of heaven were restrained. And on the new moon of the 7th month, which this would be the Feast of Trumpets, all the mouths of the abyss of earth were opened, and the water began to descend in the deep below. Wow. And on the new moon of the 10th month, the tops of the mountains were seen, and on the new moon of the 1st month, the earth became visible. Very interesting. Very interesting. So basically, this is the time of the flood, the biblical flood, and the abyss of the earth was open, the bottomless pit where the waters under the waters are, right? So to me, I find that extremely interesting, historically speaking, that it happened specifically on the Day of Trumpets back then. If that's true, to me, that's really interesting anyway. So let's see here. And on the new moon, verse 23 here of chapter 6 now in Jubilees, it says, and on the new moon of the 1st month, and on the new moon of the 4th month, and on the new moon of the 7th month. So now you're talking about 3 months that would have feasts later on in the Torah, right? In Leviticus 23, right? So you got the new moon of the 1st month would be what? That would be referring to, Abib, right? The new moon of the 1st month. So, and then you got the new moon of the 4th month and the new moon of the 7th month. And on the new moon of the 10th month are the days of remembrance and the days of seasons in the 4 divisions of the earth. So the new moon of the 7th month we know is Trumpets. So we know for a fact that day specifically became a feast day, which makes sense why it would be a day of remembrance, right? And the days of the seasons in the 4 divisions of the year, these are written and ordained as a witness forever. And verse 24, and Noah ordained them for himself as feasts for the generations forever, so that they may have become hereby a memorial to them. So very interesting, which is kind of interesting because we know the new moons are like, they're a special day, and so this is kind of interesting. It's kind of almost like the origin of the new moon. So that's kind of interesting to me. Let's see, verse 26. I have the last one for our study tonight is verse 26. It says here, and on the new moon of the 4th month, the mouths of the depths of the abyss beneath were closed. So it's very interesting. So it seems like the new moons, and by association, the day of trumpets, the day of blowing trumpets, and new moons in general might have a very important origin. So I find that very interesting. So actually, I forgot we have First Enoch chapter 60. So let me just do that one. Let me just do that real quick. We're almost done, guys. I'm sorry about that. All right, so let me just do that real quick. First Enoch chapter 60. All right, so it says here, in the 500th year, in the 7th month, on the 14th day of the month, in the life of Enoch, in that parable I saw a mighty quaking made, the heaven of heavens to quake, and the armies of the Most High and the angels and 1,000 thousands and 10,000 times 10,000 were disquieted with a great disquiet. Wow, that's pretty interesting to me. Kind of reminds me of Revelations where it says, there was it was quiet in heaven for a half an hour. I think it said somewhere in Revelations. Right before Yahushua is about to return. So very interesting. So the 500th year in the 7th month, the 14th day of the month. So that would be, that would be on a full moon. So that's kind of interesting. But anyway, my brother Bobby brought these scriptures to my attention here from Enoch and Jubilees, just for some interesting connections here with the historical value to these the new moons and the first day of the 7th month on the Feast of Trumpets. So that's pretty much the end of our study for tonight. I pray that this message would be a baraka to all you guys. And if you have any questions, you feel free to reach out to us. We have Awakened by Yahuwah Fellowship. Awakened by Yahuwah Assembly and Yahuwah Almighty and Yahushua Messiah Facebook group. You can reach out to us there. You can reach out to my YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us and have a great night. Layla Tov, everyone. Shalom. All right. Let's see here. Okay, let's just stop the recording. All right.